we welcome you to the Apex Group Bermuda Sail Grand Prix event 10 of 13. This is season 4, and we're in one of the most beautiful spots in the world. Of course, the great sound in Bermuda. Emily Nagel's hometown. Stevie Morrison and I are just wishing we could get that Bermuda passport. But let's talk about, Emily, what happened in event number 9 down in New Zealand. It was an absolute demolition derby, and some teams not only lost some fiberglass, but they lost some serious points, especially the Australians.
Yeah, it definitely mixed up the scoreboard quite a lot. Quite a nice way for the Kiwis to secure their spot at the top of the podium. Very unfortunate for the Australians. You know, the arguments go back and forth about whether that penalty was right or wrong, whether it was too harsh. You can see it from both sides. Like, it was a very harsh penalty, but at the same time, rules are the rules. So it's unfortunate for the Aussies, but at the end of the day, you know, they are still in second place. It doesn't really affect their chances of winning overall, because at the end of the day, they just need to be in the top 3 to make the grand final. And then from the grand final, you know, everyone starts from scratch. It just matters who wins that final race, and they are still a very strong team.
And they weren't alone. Emirates GBR also docked points, as was Rockwool Denmark. Stevie, let's focus on the Australians. What do you expect from Tom Slingsby and the Aussies as they come to Bermuda?
I think it'll be pretty much situation normal. All the interviews with Tom is, you know, it was one of those things. I think they've got to take their lessons from it, but it shouldn't affect how he approaches his racing. I mean, he's been the best for a long time, and he's been the best for a very good reason, because he does what Tom Slingsby does. So don't go changing that's for sure. But equally, if you make a mistake, you need to understand why the mistake happened and not make it again. And I'm sure he'll have... Well, knowing Tom, he'll have probably lost many, many hours sleep, because he doesn't, even when he's winning, he seems to be pretty hard on himself. So when he's smashed his boat into little splinters of carbon, he's going to be really hard on himself. But he'll be back with a bang here, hopefully not that kind of bang, and doing well. I'm sure about that. But I think almost for me, it was a bigger deal for Rockwool Denmark, because less penalty points, yes, but you know, Slingsby got so many points, he's just dealing them out like cash, isn't he? You know, he's just throwing the money around points-wise. So for him to just lose a few points was no real big problem, I don't think. We'll wait to see on that in San Francisco. Of course, if he goes and has a bad event here, it does start to be a mega problem. You don't want to just throw 8 points away if you can avoid it. But he had them to lose. Rockwool Denmark didn't. So I think really the bigger question is, what does Rockwool Denmark do here in Bermuda? How do they get the wheels back on the bus, and how do they try and do what they look like they were so well set for this grand final, and all of a sudden now back in the pack?
Yeah, pressure's really on for them, and it's unfortunate as well, because they're now in this position where, you know, so far they have been really consistent with the thirds, the fourths, and that's set them up really well this season. But now that's not enough. Now they need to actually win an event if they want to really get their foot in the door of that final.
Stevie, before I get to the final question, I want to ask you and Emily both, does this sting more because it's New Zealand that moves ahead of Australia? I mean, if it was France, America, Canada, would it bother Tom Slingsby more? But it's the fact that it's Peter Burling and the Black Foils now that sit atop the leaderboard.
My guess is that it will probably annoy him more. But, I mean, this is let's not take this light. I think this is possibly the first time in 4 seasons that Australia haven't been the top of the leaderboard at any stage. Any stage ever in SailGP. Well, no, but they won the first event. In season 1 of SailGP, they won the first event. And I think they won the first event in season 2. And you know, they've kind of just always led this series. This is the first time they're not in front. As I say, I wouldn't be chucking the baby out with the bathwater, as we'd say up north in the UK. You know, it's not time for dramatic action, but they do need to, you know, reassert themselves. It's not been a good season 4 for them, despite being so far ahead of the top. I think before it was a bit more hit and miss with Tom. He'd win it or he wouldn't do as well, but he's not been winning as many events. So I think Tom will be fine in terms of that final, but I think the Australian crew are going to want to sort of lay down a marker, because at the moment the person laying down the markers is Peter Burling, and that probably does hurt a little bit more. But I think more importantly, you don't want teams getting used to winning. Winning's a habit, and Tom Slingsby had that habit. Seems to have lost it a little bit. Burling seems to have the habit at the moment.
However, to your point, in season 4, the Australians have not been as dominant as they have in the past. Of course, they didn't get their first win of the season until their home event in Sydney, Australia. So as we turn to the final question for you two geniuses, which team, Emily, in the middle of the pack do you have your eye on? Which team do you think that's maybe sitting, okay, we'll just say Spain, France, Rockwool Denmark, USA, Canada, maybe Emirates GBR too. Which of those teams do you have your eye on, not only to possibly make some noise to get to the grand final, but which team do you think will do well in your home waters of Bermuda?
Well, going off of practice racing today, you know, the front runners are obviously the Danish and the French. So my choice would be between the two of them. I think I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Danish team and just their consistency through the season. The French as well, they are brilliant, but if I'm going to back someone to do well in Bermuda, the Danish have spent a lot of time here through different campaigns. They know the waters well. I'd like to see them do well today or this weekend.
Stevie, give us a flyer. Come on, go out on a limb.
It's not really a limb to go out on. I think what Emily said's really right. I mean, I think the French have got the potential to actually go out and win a final. I'm not sure I've seen that from Denmark yet, but they will make that happen. I mean, you mentioned the USA. Well, spoiler alert, practice day here. Oh. Everyone's going to have seen it on social media. Instagram will blow up with the pictures we've seen. Yep. A massive capsize from the US. So that team's got a lot of work to do, really, to try and get things going. I don't think they can be thinking about the grand final. They need to be thinking about season 5 and trying to improve things. So I think very much Emily's spot on that it's Rockwool or France. Yeah, she's got a soft spot for Nicolai Sehersted. Come on, let's be honest. Round the world sailor as well. You know, that's the sort of environment. I kind of feel the French are coming into form just at the right time. They've had a tough middle part of the season. Denmark, brilliant, super consistent. I just think they maybe need to add a little bit of spice to their soup.
Well, plenty of spice after practice racing, as you guys talked about, the USA and the capsize. Lots of close calls. Everyone feeling a little bit froggy to get out in these beautiful waters with plenty of wind, and the Great Sound will certainly be the spot to get it done. Well, to remind you, coming up, it's this weekend. It's the Apex Group Bermuda Sail Grand Prix event, 10 of 13. It is all to play for because after this, it is just Canada. We're going to Halifax, then New York City, and then, of course, San Francisco in July. So, for Emily Nagel and Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. We look forward to seeing you in Bermuda.